Alrighty, in the last video we talked about how not all books are created equal and the difference between, say, like a textbook and a classic. But in this video, let's talk a little bit more about how to promote the love of good reading in your children. And honestly, Babysitter's Club is not equal to Dickens and Kipling and Schiller. It just isn't. And it's not going to, the one thing does not lead to the other. They are two different animals. Like reading for your fluff brain is different than acquiring a love of reading for wisdom. So I would say that the love of reading has to be pushed in some way, but and that people can acquire the love of reading through many different avenues. Like I prefer the Charlotte Mason method, where you're presenting them with a feast, spreading the feast of ideas before them. But I have seen people also acquire the love of reading through the back door. Like they were just reading mostly textbooks for school, and they were reading for achievement, or they thought, I need to read the classics. Actually, this might have happened to me on some level. I want to read the classics because I want to have read the classics, and then actually falling in love with books and the ideas in the classics and more of a deeper appreciation for why things are classics and the ideas, right? So while I think achievement is not necessarily a method you should use, it can work in certain instances. Anyways, so with toddlers, you want to read to them a lot, and not just the silly twaddle books. Also, think of things like Dr. Seuss and Winnie the Pooh. But isn't Dr. Seuss twaddle? No, it is not. Because even though the ideas in Dr. Seuss might not be that profound, although Horton Hears a Who, that's fairly profound. The Star-Bellied Sneetches story, you know, they do have some good lessons in them sometimes that you can extract. But the point of Dr. Seuss is that his use of rhyme, rhythm, meter, all of that is delightful, and it quickens their spirit, if you will, because it's delightful to listen to. So it improves their language at the very least. And it's enjoyable for me. I still love my Dr. Seuss. I think he's brilliant. So anyways, another one, Winnie the Pooh. Read original Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne. Not watching Disney Winnie the Pooh shows. Although I suppose you're not going to hell if you watch a Disney Winnie the Pooh. And certainly not reading books based on Winnie the Pooh Disney shows. That is canceled. Those are the books that ought to be burned. I'm teasing, of course, but original Winnie the Pooh is great, and it is enjoyable, again, for adults and children alike. So these are just a few examples. If you go to AmblesideOnline.org and check out their book lists for the various age and grade groups, then you will be all set with tons of reading material. But reading above a child's level is very important. Some people would say, like, you know, you want to read to the child at a level they can understand. And that seems logical, but it's not actually true. Because if you think about how we acquire language in the first place, nobody pops out of the womb already knowing even basic words like flower and bear, right? So how do they learn them? Not by you flashing a flower flashcard in front of them, flower, flower, but by context. They're watching what's going on around them. It is above their level, and yet they learn it. They learn it by living in it. And that is kind of the same concept with reading. You want to read to them at a level that's beyond what they are yet comprehending in totality, because that is how they're going to be wicked up into the next level. So those whole like grade level, reading at their grade level and comprehending at their grade level is sort of a bunk guide, I would say. But, nobody pops out of the womb knowing anything, and we learn it all by environment. So give them a reading environment that is challenging. Let me think about what I was going to say about that. Yes, it also makes them feel good, and I would say more confident. It makes them feel like they've been kind of let into a world that is beyond them. They've been let into this secret that there is a lot of world to explore, that they are able to sort of sit with older people in the room and be let into the things that are being read and enjoyed out there, instead of feeling like, all that they have is these plastic child playthings. Does that make sense? They feel privileged to walk into the world of literature and the world of ideas, even if they're not grasping everything. For example, I want to say something about my 4-year-old. She sits with me often when I'm reading to the second grader, and she is able to answer his history questions a lot of the times. And, or if I ask him, what did you remember? She'll pop out with King Harold was killed, or stuff like that. So while I don't expect her to remember which King Harold, I don't even expect him to remember this, further down the line, the point is that they're listening to some part of the story and they're getting their brain developed. Actually, and she'll quote little snatches of poetry that I read to him too. And she quoted Shakespeare when she was 3 years old. I kid you not. We were all reading King Lear and she happened to be there. And I thought this line was so funny. Out vile jelly. It's sort of brutal, but out vile jelly. And I repeated it several times, and then she was repeating it the next day, and it just made me laugh so much that she had latched onto that. She doesn't even know what it's really talking about. He was getting his eye popped out. Poor King Lear. And then I want to tell you about Wind in the Willows as an example here. So when my current 4th grader was in 2nd grade, she is my 5th child, and she is the first one that I succeeded in reading Wind in the Willows to. So our curriculum recommends reading through Wind in the Willows with your 2nd grader. So you're probably reading to her at this point still at 2nd grade, and it never took before. I never got it. I thought Wind in the Willows, it starts kind of slow. The chapters are long-ish, and then I was like, yeah, even though these characters are animals, they are adults. They're clearly adults. They're thinking about adult type of things and doing adult type of things. And how is this kid-friendly? Really, the language was advanced as well. And then I did try to have, I was just really busy at the time as well. And I did try to have my children listen on audio, but then I wasn't really present and a lot of other stuff was going on and they weren't really listening to it, so they didn't get it and I didn't get it. And I just thought this one isn't for 2nd grade, it's for older. But when I tried it with her, finally, 5th child, she ended up loving it. And so did I. And that's the thing, is when you're able to actually pay attention, those kinds of books, which I heard that C.S. Lewis always kept a copy of Wind in the Willows on his nightstand, which that is high praise, but that's not why you should read it. It's just, it might delight you, right? But it is a classic for a reason, again. So there is a lot of human interest in Wind in the Willows, a lot of real things to connect to, the emotions, just the little things that they say. And then, yeah, it is about everyday life, sort of everyday life of regular people, or animals in this case, but they're having people lives. Anyways, and then they do present those things that are just delightful to a child's mind, like the frog running away in a woman's costume. He's escaping from prison and things like that, and just things that really made her laugh out loud. So now that her brother is in 2nd grade, she's already telling him, oh, you get to read Wind in the Willows this year. It's so much fun. You'll love it. And then she, at this point, is able to start reading through Shakespeare with us. This is true, and I'm not saying every fourth grader is going to want to or be able to do this, or that that's necessarily even the goal. But, you know, she did not grasp everything in Wind in the Willows. She is not going to grasp everything in the Shakespeare play, but when we read, she wants to take a part, and her reading is good. Her inflections are in the right places, and honestly, I wouldn't want her to get everything about Shakespeare because Shakespeare is PG-13, right? but still, that she's able to participate and that she wants to do that, and she will get what she gets. And then she won't get what she doesn't get. But she loves it, and she will hopefully love it all her life. And isn't that the goal of reading good books and reading classics? So hopefully this encouraged you, and let me know your thoughts.